Yeah, we're certainly to have at least that bit of accountability. I know my constituents were asking for that to happen. They were demanding for that to happen. They did not want to see him take that seat. They were very upset that he did in the dark of night. And I think that this will begin to at least begin that part of the healing process with regard to this gentleman. But I think that we also need to forget that accountability doesn't just lie with him; it lies with Operation Lone Star, the 91 troopers that were on scene, and the 8 other agencies that were in that hallway. We need to know what kind of systemic failure happened here so that it never happens again. If it's anything like the Senate presentation by DPS, I cannot believe that I would trust that finding. If it's anything that is a sugar coated presentation put forth by the Department of Public Safety, I cannot. And that's why I filed a lawsuit to get the information that we all need to get in a courtroom. At the end of the day, it was very quick for this DPS director, Steve McCraw, to point the finger at Arredondo, pointing the finger at the cop with 6 people under him. And I don't know Pete Arredondo, don't need to know him, don't want to know him. But at the end of the day, we had so many DPS troopers on scene. 12 of them were of the 19 that were in that hallway. 12 were DPS troopers. Where were the systemic failures? Why didn't all the radio communications come in? The governor's office knew that that radio system was failing in the community for 7 years. Why are we not looking at the broader systemic problems that created probably the worst mass shooting? And I say the worst, not because it was the highest in number, but it's probably the longest in having to wait for law enforcement to go in. We don't know how many children possibly bled out, but the systemic failures and the human error here were abound. Well, some were proven to be wrong, and some were clearly in his wholesale imagination because the Texas Tribune showed an open records request when he submitted his notes. He said, "Don't say this" in a section of his notes. He ended up saying that. The governor had a narrative that he wanted to dispel, and that narrative, or that he wanted to put forward, and that narrative was his hero's narrative, and how the Texas Department of Public Safety, his own Operation Lone Star task force, went in and saved the day. That isn't what happened. His own task force was part of the systemic failures that happened, the management failures. His own command and control people from Operation Lone Star were there. We are not even have not even begun to scratch at the levels of accountability that we need to have here. And it starts at the very top in Texas. People need to continue to ask and demand for change and demand accountability. If there is, then she must be arresting a whole bunch of police officers, and we know that that's not going to happen, right? Um, Pete Arredondo was placed out there as the scapegoat for sure for a tremendous amount of failure that happened at every possible level. And she, the district attorney, was the first to come out and yell stop to everybody and tell people they were ordered not to communicate. She continues to tell the mayor that he cannot talk to the media, continues to tell city officials that if they talk to the media, they will be committing a crime and they potentially could get themselves indicted. That to me is just a travesty. And if we don't have transparency in government, then we don't have democracy. Thank you so much.